welcome back to another Hospitality podcast. What episode are we on now? 27? Because we took 2 weeks off.
I think it's like 29.
So 2 weeks off.
29? 28.
29? Let me see. Let me check.
I'll tell you right now.
It's been a minute, y'all. Sorry about that. We've been living life.
Right now. No, life happens.
That's the whole point, though, is, we're just going to dive right into it. We're talking about, mental health, stressors, things like that. When you have stuff going on, sometimes you got to let other things kind of go to the least, the leeway or the sideways? I don't know what the fuck it is. You can put them to the side. 27. Let them kind of drift off, and then, so what is it, 27?
27.
Well, that's what we did. We had some major things going on. I went back to being promoted back on midnights, so that kind of fucked the schedule a little bit. Then Mr. Handsome over there.
Then I went out.
Mr. Handsome over there went to a new unit.
To a new unit on the PD.
I didn't go know it.
Yeah.
Well, it changes, right?
Change, yeah.
Change can be scary and difficult, and so we kind of had to step back from the podcast for a week or two, let everyone get readjusted, and and then once our schedules start working again, we can come back down and have some conversations. I know next week we got the NYPD guy that wanted to possibly come on.
Yeah.
Tell his story. So when we can, we'll still push out some good content. But
it's funny because yesterday I was at a play for one of my little ones, and she go one of the dads that listens to us. He goes, "Hey, how's the podcast thing going?" I was like, "It's going well." He's like, "Are you guys finding it difficult to record, like to stay consistent?" I was like, "I think that's probably about the hardest part right now, is the consistency part." And I go, "My buddy just went back to being a lieutenant in the PD. I just moved to a unit in the PD, so it's his schedule changed. Now my schedule changed too." I said, "Maddie's the only one that still has like a steady schedule, and we're all trying to figure our lives out and fit the recordings in as much as we can." But it gets overwhelming at times, And
Maddie with the baby, that
Maddie
just throws a whole new wrench into everyday game plans as well.
I think it's just more of an entertainment thing. I know that we talked in the beginning when we wanted to start the podcast, and we talked a little bit about like what were the possibilities, what we want to do with it, and that's the best part, is that we're not here to make millions of dollars and be the next Joe Rogans, but we enjoy doing this. Like, and I told Angel, for me, like, I really want to continue to enjoy that. I want to continue to enjoy, talking with each other. It's kind of like how we build our friendship, continue to develop our friendship. And I love when our kids get together, when Tiana and the girls are upstairs, or, your boys come here and just kind of start running around with spears and guns.
Pizza Fridays, bro.
It's a fun Friday, But I don't think there's nothing wrong with taking a break here and there, especially like I've gotten some good feedback. We've gotten good feedback. And some of it is like, hey, it is kind of difficult sometimes talking about the same topic, which to me, it's no different than talking about religion, right? They say if you bring God to everything, you don't have to prioritize where he falls. Mm-hmm. God is in everything you do. So for me, I feel like the podcast has helped us to communicate with each other, to reach out to, people through social media, through, the surfaces, or, the platforms of iTunes and Spotify and iHeartRadio and YouTube and whatever else. So the good thing is that we have so much open space to talk about anything and everything, which kind of leads to what we were going to discuss today, right? Tattoos.
Tattoos and facial hair.
That's tattoos, facial hairs, and whatever else we can come up with at this point.
To some people, like, that may not be a big deal to, like, really, this is a conversation, but there's a lot that goes into, self-expression through tattoos. Obviously, the two of you are tattooed up beyond belief, and I've got like 5 tattooed
up. About to add more.
So my Jen doesn't know it yet, but
you're gonna keep hitting that leg.
Yeah. But funny enough, right? Like when we did the grieving your pet episode, what did we say offline? We go like, "Oh, is this really something we want to talk about? Like, you think people are gonna relate?" And people actually reached out to us like, "Yo, that was a great episode. Yeah. Like, I could relate." So yeah, maybe we think right now, as we're recording, like, hey, people may not relate to the tattoo stuff. Maybe the ones that don't have tattoos, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people in the PD and in the military that are very tatted. I've been tatted for a long time. And
equivalent to what we were going to say, we'll talk about facial hair, in the uniform. Just because I like facial hair. I love facial hair. I like growing out a beard, and I like when I have my 2-3 weeks off and I have a little, thing going on, I'm like, oh, this is nice. My personal opinions, I don't think it looks that great, in a uniform. And that's because my brain is still like hijacked from all the military, like you got to have a clean face and da-da-da. And, you see the beard in uniform, like in a police uniform, and it's not so bad. It's like, all right, as long as you keep it nice and clean and trim, I can deal with that. In the military, seeing you in dress blues, with a beard, I just personally don't think it looks that great. But, to each their own. Again, just because I have tattoos doesn't mean that I might agree with like tattoo policies or think they're professional or not. Me personally, if they don't have,
gang connotation,
nudity, curse words, pornography, whatever, just like a sticker on a car, right? As long as you're not putting a big old dick, which we all see those balls hanging from the rear view.
Could you imagine that in the back of like a Durango PD going 100 down the road?
You got the big old ball sack, and I see it on trucks all the time, and I think it's funny for like a split second until you got to explain to your kid why there's these huge bull balls in the back of a truck, especially when my daughter has. I'm like, anyways, I'm just trying to hang. There's a big old balls hanging. I don't know how to tell you that, but yeah, man, I don't know. I've spoken to numerous people about the tattoo policy, and I know our job has kind of shifted, changed. It depends on who the commissioner is, who the chief is, what their expectations are. Me personally, I think they look good. Like you said, they express themselves. We both have sleeves, and I want to keep adding more to my arms. And I know you talked about doing your back.
Oh, I'm doing my back.
And I don't know. I guess they're a part of your personality, a part of who you are. And some people, I've also gotten tattoos that meant absolutely nothing. I went with my buddy Justin one time to Atlantic City, and we're like, dude, let's get some tattoos. And I was like, all right, I'll put some stars on my arms for the number of people that we lost in combat or whatever. And I'm like, oh, but then I ended up getting
something to you.
Yeah, they meant something to me then. And now they got covered up with more stuff.
Yeah,
but
still.
the reality,
they got covered up because you wanted to cover
right?
up.
I covered up with exactly. But I don't know. What's your opinion from somebody who doesn't have the sleeved up, and then looking from a supervisor point of view? How does that look for you when your guys or girls have tattoos that are visible?
I think it just makes us people. I think I actually relate to a lot more people because they'll see my tattoos. They'll see that I'm not just a person in a uniform. They'll look and oh, what's that tattoo say? Because I got the Luke Combs, even though I'm leaving on my arm for my dad, and stuff for my kids, and dead relatives and stuff. And I think it's great. I think cops having that, when you look at it, and sometimes it's a distraction for people because they may be yelling at you, but then they'll glimpse and they'll be like, oh, I see an owl on his arm, or I see a lion, and they may see that, and it can be a focus change for somebody who may be going through a mental episode, because that's all they need is just a little bit, or somebody's in a crisis. They see tattoos and things like that. Sometimes they'll ask, oh, what is that for? Well, my first thing, this is for my dad who passed. So they may say, oh, you went through grief. You went through a hard time. So that may help that person just as much as it helps you. And then again, we've talked a lot about grief and dealing with those things on this podcast, where, I feel like my dad is always with me because he's on my arm, right? My kids are always with me because they're on my arm. Same thing with your kids on you. Same thing with people that you've lost on you. You feel like you always have that presence, right? So I think tattoos are great. I have no issues with them. If I see somebody rolling up and they've got face tattoos and they're in uniform, I'm like, oh, you look like a fucking...
I was actually going to ask you about that. Like, what is your perspective on, limitations to tattoos, right? Let's say hands, neck, face.
But I also think, if it doesn't bother. It's not something I would get, but I'm like, listen, I don't think it takes away from you being an officer. And same thing, somebody may see that and be like, all right, fuck it, this guy's either a psychopath because he's got tattoos on his face. I don't want to fuck with him. I'm going to comply. Or they'll just look at it and they're just like, they'll ask the questions. What does that mean on your face? I've had that, even on perp. I'm like, what is that on your face?
What is that?
But they'll stop and they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, what is this?
Sir, those are called balls.
What is this tattoo? It could be you can use it as like a topic change with a lot of people, whether it's administration, civilians, perps, other cops. And same thing for facial hair. We all know I had the beard. And then when I got promoted, they were like, hey, you should probably shave that. And I wasn't happy about it, but I understood.
Does your job have a policy on grooming standards and stuff?
Yes. You can't have one, essentially.
Can't have one what?
Beard.
Okay, beard.
But, medical exemptions, which I have, they can't say anything. But being promoted, being under the spotlight, being on probation again, I'm like, do I really want to put a crosshair on me just so I can look handsome?
So you kept that ugly ass thing.
So I'm glad you said that, because I have this horrific mustache that's always been on my face, and I think it looks worse than the beard did. I think the beard looks so much better.
I mean, I do like the beard, but you can pull off the mustache pretty decent.
It still looks terrible.
It looks pretty decent. I'm not gonna lie. It looks all right.
But that's my point. Like, I actually felt more confident with a beard. I liked how I looked, even in uniform, and that presented itself in how I did my job and how I talked to people. I think the grooming standard of someone being like, well, I don't like beards, so nobody else can have a beard. I think you're trying to just be power hungry and grab onto something and make, it is something where, what's it costing you to let the people under you have a beard? So you put a standard on. Oh, you got to keep it, whatever, 1 inch thick, trim the neck, whatever else, so you don't look like a slob. I agree. But what's it doing that you are taking that away from somebody? Why is that something that so many administrations are so gung-ho about? Even the tattoos, right? Like, when we all left the academy, all three of us were told you got to cover up. I remember having to put a sleeve on and having to cover up right when I went out of the academy. I'm like, this looks even stupider. Like, just let me show my tattoos. It looks fucking dumb having to cover them up. And then we got a new chief coming in. She's like, listen, that looks stupid. I'm like, cool. Glad we agree. So I'm for both. I think, same thing as everything else. You could have somebody come in that's no tattoos, no facial hair, and they walk in, you're like, you look like a bag of fucking dicks. You look terrible. You're a slob. Your uniform looks like shit, and your face is just a punchable face. But then you have somebody show up, like the two of you, whose tattoos all can be shown. You're like, you look good.
Thank you.
You're confident. You're a handsome guy. Like, you present yourself well. But I think that's, again, what tattoos and some facial hair can do for people is bring out that confidence and show that I'm here. This is my job. Because it's discipline, right? How long do you guys have to sit on a table and endure that pain for something? That's discipline.
Or stupidity. I don't know which one. One or the other.
Yeah, well,
I mean, it kind of comes with the culture, right? I mean, I didn't get my first tattoo till pretty much right when I got in the military. And then, you get one. And for the people that are listening and you've never gotten a tattoo, they usually say you get one and you can't stop. I mean, I don't know.
No, you can get two responses from getting a tattoo. You can either not get any other tattoos because you just did not enjoy the experience, or you're gonna enjoy the experience for one reason or another. Maybe you like the tattoo, you like the way it felt, and then you get full tattoos. And I think when I got my first tattoo, that was the thing that the artist told me. He goes, "You're either gonna fucking hate it or you're gonna love it." And I don't know. That you decide.
I think I love the aftermath. I don't really love it.
You decide. I fucking hate.
Well, it's a process, obviously. It's a process. It's like unicorns just scratching your back or your whatever area you're getting tatted on.
I like that. Unicorns. That's one way to say next time I go get my tattoo. It feels like unicorns just scratching my back.
That's it. That's it. For me,
I fucking hate unicorns.
I would say for me, tattoos are not unprofessional in a sense that you can be all tatted up and be the most professional individual out there. Just because you have tattoos doesn't make it unprofessional. And now you can have absolutely no tattoos and then be the biggest fucking asshole or dickhead out there. And it's so unprofessional that people are just looking at you like, what the fuck? So when people tell me, oh, tattoos, they just look unprofessional. Okay, I may look unprofessional, but am I unprofessional?
Right.
Between looking and being is two completely different things.
But yeah, we'll have a fat cop show up who can't do anything.
That to me is unprofessional.
And a shitty mustache.
That to me is unprofessional.
But that's right. No, I agree. And people
Chris, you couldn't talk about yourself like
that. You know what I mean? But like, they'll show up. People are like, oh, I'd rather have the two of you show up, and you're like, all right, well, these two look like they know what they're doing. Like, they're presented well. And then you got somebody that shows up, and I've seen it where I'm like, oh boy,
you're like a bag of smashed assholes.
This is gonna be
you're
fucking,
like, what the fuck?
Yeah, look at this mashed potato walking up here. Like, that's gonna be.
It's like a bag of soup. Like, what the fuck are you doing here?
What would be the ideal description of what a good cop looks like? Right. I know that we've kind of outgrown a little bit in that in our life. To look at things, or don't judge a book by its cover. It's kind of like what they tell when you're younger. But if we had to describe what you think a cop looks like, coming into a call, let's say they're coming to your home during a domestic, like what would you want them to look like?
It's well presented is my thing. Like when you walk in as a police officer, and not that I'm the most fit person in the world, because I'm not, but I'm also not severely overweight, walking in with crumbs on my uniform, spot stains, whatever else, walking in huffing and puffing after I just walked up 3 steps to walk into your house. To me, that's what it is. How, when you walk in, what presence do you get?
Have you seen and I've seen it. Have you seen the police officer that their gun belt sags?
Yeah.
Right? I find that unprofessional.
Yeah.
To me, right? To me, that's unprofessional. You're judging me based on my tattoos. I'm judging you based on the way you look. And you look like a fucking asshole. The way you look just doesn't inspire confidence in the fact that you know how to perform your job, your duties. If you can't take care of yourself with the way you look,
how are you going to take care of me?
How are you going to take care of me as a civilian? And to me, when I see the freaking saggy gun belt, I'm like, bro, like fix yourself, do something. Mm-hmm. So now you're judging me based on my tattoos, but I'm judging you based on something that is actually, I feel like a little more personal, which is your personal appearance.
Right.
Which tattoos is a personal appearance as well. But again, does it make me unprofessional? I think the way you have your gun belt, that makes you unprofessional.
There might be two different sides of the page too with this topic. I think there's apples and oranges with that. Like the appearance, like you said.
Dichotomy?
Dichotomy? Is that the word? Dichotomy?
That was a word from last episode.
Yeah, I forgot it already. I would have got that one wrong. It's a dichotomy. All right, that does sound nice, right? With somebody who has a belt sagging, I think that's a little bit more of complacency, right? Tattoos, I don't think are much of a complacency topic, in my opinion.
And that's what I'm saying. Like when it comes to complacency, that shows unprofessional. To me, you just appear to be an unprofessional individual because you're not even disciplined enough to take care of yourself and the way you look and the way you appear. And when you show up, remember, people say the first impression is the best impression. Mm-hmm. If you show up to my call and I'm the person that needs help and your gun belt looks like shit, your uniform looks like shit,
you're like, oh, fuck.
I'm like, damn, I'm screwed. You see, I'm screwed.
You get one chance at a first impression.
That's it.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So for me, tattoos are not unprofessional. Again, I could be all tatted up, which I am. And I can tell you I'm very professional how I handle my calls, very professional with people. You can motherfuck the shit out of me. And, every now and then I may take a jab here or there. But for the most part, I keep it pretty professional. There's certain people that you got to kind of say a few things to let them know, like, hey,
but
I am a human
individual basis.
Yeah, of course.
That's not you as a cop or as a person. That's this individual instance is okay. You need to get put back, down a few pegs that you think you're on.
Yep.
I've learned one thing from Meg. For my wife, she said that there's something that I do, and I'm working on it because I do it subconsciously. I don't know that I do it. You'll tell me something. I like tattoos, but only if they're not below the wrist or as long as they're not above the neck. And I always go, no, it's not that. It's ... right? So for me, like for a long time, I did judge the hand tattoos, and I love them. Me personally, I don't think that I would want tattoos on my hands or my fingers, but I love them. I have many friends that have tattoos within their middle, the fingers, inside of their fingers, on their hands, their knuckles. I think that shit looks badass. But, I feel like they say, hey, we don't want anything below the belt line. The wrist line, right, for where your watch is. We don't want anything showing on your neck or behind your ears, on your forehead. And I guess, I don't know where we created the rule or the law that says that you can't do this or you can't do that.
Well,
right?
I think that's just like the generational thing, right? Like when we were growing up, my dad would always say, I got my tattoos. Don't get anything that's going to be below your sleeve, which obviously that worked out well. But it's definitely not on the forearms, definitely not on the arms. Be able to be so you can cover it up, because it's going to take away job opportunities. And I think the same thing as a beard. Everyone thought beard meant you were lazy. You didn't want to shave. You're lazy. The tattoo, right? That just had a negative connotation. You don't care about your quote unquote appearance. I think as times have changed, right, that standard now has changed. Like that thought process has changed, because a lot of us now have them. We're like, well, it's a stupid fucking rule, wasn't it? But I think, again, going back to the admin, who's all of our bosses? People that are still in that kind of mind frame era of, well, I don't want you to have this because I think it looks bad.
There's people that don't want to change with the times.
No, I was going to say that.
You're making these decisions based on the old school mentality and how things were perceived maybe when you were coming in and going through your years on the job, right? And how things were perceived. But now the new generation, people are fucking tatted up. It is what it is. I've seen doctors tatted up. I've seen lawyers tatted up. I've seen, obviously, officers tatted up. You name it. From everywhere, every walks of life. People just like tattoos. It's just a culture. You know, people like it. It's an art form. Just like music is an art form. Just like writing a script for a movie is an art form. Like acting is an art form.
Yep.
Tattoos is an art form. It's an expression. That's how you express yourself.
Yep.
You know, so for those people that are making these decisions, they should maybe look at who's picture. Actually in the department and who's actually running it. Because yes, you're running it from your office, but who's actually doing the job, right? And like you said, it could be a morale booster. That, hey, the department, and I'm not saying, hey, go all out and be like, yeah, you can get face tattoos. Right. Obviously, there has to be a standard. Like Matthias said, for me, neck tattoos, I don't know, a little far. Hand tattoos, a little far. Obviously, for me, and as you can see, I'm full of tattoos myself. So it's okay to have tattoos, but this also has to be a policy and a standard. It's like, hey, like I said, your face tattoos, and neck tattoos, and as long as you can cover it with like a uniform, I think you should be good. Yep. Even the state troopers, I would say here in New York, are probably about the most, how can I say it, strict when it comes to tattoo policy. And they're now loosening their tattoo policies and becoming more lenient with the tattoos because they couldn't recruit. Right. Because so many people were just getting disqualified based on the tattoos alone.
We had that happen in the military. You know, when I remember seeing, like, I don't know if it was a commandant of the Marine Corps, the sergeant major of the Marine Corps, one or the other in the last couple of terms had, you know, full blown sleeves, you know, and the morale was so high from, you know, especially like the infantry guys that are like, bro, what the fuck? And now you see the sergeant major with the sleeves rolled up and he's tatted up, and it's like, all right, like, can we get back to life? You know, like, why are we so hung up on the idea that, you know, like the tattoos are unprofessional or the beards are unprofessional? Again, it's always going to be a personal opinion thing. I think that if there was a chief or someone high up that says, hey, I agree with my cops, I think that we should be able to have, you know, the beards or whatever. And of course, there's something behind it too. Like the beards, for example, the excuse or the reason that I've heard that was used is for the gas masks.
Yeah, but that's been disproven a long time ago that you can wear these masks, even the N95,
and it'll be just fine.
Without it. It's about to fit it to your face.
So there's now a huge shift in the military where you see a lot of service members that now do have beards. Yep. Obviously, there's a grooming standard. It has to be, I think, below a quarter of an inch.
But our hair is the same thing, right? Like, we all have the grooming standard for our hair. Yeah. And I love that, which I'll get back to that part, but go on.
No, it just has to be below a quarter of an inch, right? Listen, like you said, it's already been debunked. You can still wear the mask. You're not going to die. There's a shift now in culture where, yeah, you have to have a waiver for it. Can I see it in the future just being like, hey, just keep it neatly groomed and you'll be just fine with the beard? Yeah, it took somebody to come into office that was like, okay, you know, this is a morale thing for most military members. And it is. It really is. It's not. Some people actually need it because they have whatever the skin condition is called.
Yeah, you get the bumps. I get them too, you know.
I get the bumps too, but I don't get them as bad as other people. I've seen people that get them really bad, right? So for those people, hey, good on you, man. There's other people that want to just because, like you said, it looks better, you feel better. Why not? What's the difference? Like, if you get it because of the bumps and you can get it as well why not? Yep. You know, like, just let everybody have it. And it's whoever wants it can have it as long as there's a grooming standard and you have to keep it in between those parameters. You should be just fine with getting your beard. And again, it took somebody to come into office and being like, hey, maybe we should look at the grooming standards and see how we can change it to better Same thing happened with the female regulation for the hairs. Like you couldn't have loose hair anymore. The ponytail had to be like wrapped up. Yeah. Now you can have a ponytail. It just can't be below your like shoulder line. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? So everything's changing. But again, it took that person. Now imagine a president of the United States, and I'm not saying the current president. I'm saying a president of the United States, all tattooed up. Do you think other people, brother? Do you think other people now and agencies are going to start looking at tattoos differently? Because now this is like the biggest power. You are the man. You're the man. You're the president of the United States of America, right? Imagine that president being all tatted up. Do you think now the military would change their policies? State troopers would change their policies? Police departments would change their... Of course they will. Because now they're seeing something that it's okay to have it now. Look at the president. The president's tatted up.
Well, the craziest part with that, too, you bring that up is, I mean, throughout history, and no matter what militaristic form there was, men had beards.
Yeah.
Even Lincoln, big fucking beard. And I just use Civil War as easy one. Any Civil War general had, whether it was fucking mutton chops or just a bushy beard. But again, even when you go like overseas, right? You're talking about the Greeks and anything else. A lot of them had facial hair. So why we changed to this? I call it the old time English thought process, where you need to be completely clean and completely
because it seemed as professional. That's how they try to turn it. The beard looks unprofessional. So now looking neat, that gives that sense of professionalism. Is it really though? We're the ones that are creating that standard that a beard is unprofessional. We created that standard. Just like we created it, we can get rid of it. Because we said it was unprofessional. Can we now turn around and be like, hey, we were wrong? It's not unprofessional. You can have it. Of course we can. Again, there has to be just a standard that now says it has to be neatly trimmed. I'm okay with that.
No, I agree.
Matthias hates the beard, by the way. He hates beards in uniform.
You know what it is? Like for me, like...
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us what it is.
Like I said earlier, it's just like in the dress blue uniform, in the military, in the Marine Corps, you see this really nice uniform. And then you have this beard. I can't get it out of my head. Because even the mustache, like we have a procedure, policy and procedures and grooming standards on our job. It can't be past the corner of the lip and this and that. And cops still have the extended handlebar mustache and this, that, and the other. So, are we really after people, like certain people, or are we, putting this, on everybody? Like, what are the standards? In the Marine Corps, when you're wearing a dress blue uniform and you have a mustache, it's like typically guys will keep it really thin and like that Puerto Rican style, like very nice and clean and sharp.
That is
you're like
so racist, but cool.
Not racist. Style. You know what I'm thinking about? I'm thinking about Bad Boys.
You're thinking about Rico Suave.
What's his name now? What's his name? The guy from Bad Boys, the Marine.
Reggie,
fucking Reggie, man. You see Reggie's fucking mustache? He's got that shit nice and sharp. And that new Bad Boys, he was
a badass at that. Reggie's still looking like a dweeb to becoming a badass.
He's a badass. Oh shit! I mean, so that's what I can think about. So it's not that I don't like beards. I kind of am still in the old school mentality. I kind of agree. It looks a little bit more professional when you're clean shaven because everyone looks alike. But maybe it's not. It's not about that. Maybe it's not about all looking alike. Maybe it's actually setting a standard. And if the standard is beards, hey, make sure you keep that shit clean and professional.
But again, I feel like if you give people the choice that they can have beards if they want to, you're going to see there's going to be some people that are going to want the beard, and then they're going to have the people that are not going to want it. And it's okay. We're not in the military. You don't have to have uniformity. The uniformity is the uniforms that we wear. That is the uniformity. Not how I look. I don't look the same as you. I don't look the same as you. So there's no fucking uniformity. We're all different. And can we express ourselves as being different? Of course we can. If you like your beard, by all means, wear your beard. If you want that gay-ass little freaking thin mustache, by all means, have your gay-ass little Marine mustache. Go ahead.
The Marine mustache.
The Reggie stash.
The Reggie stash.
The Reggie stash.
Have at it. That's what I'm saying.
I think it's just...
You got to give people a choice.
I think a lot of what it is those, again, that are in charge. It's just a power grab. It's a controlling aspect. I don't want to give that freedom.
Yeah.
Because it's how much can I grab, how much can I hold, how much can I maintain? Because when they give that away, they feel like they're losing control. In my personal opinion, I think that's where a lot of that comes in. Is those people don't want to give that, but I think when they do, where those new administrators come in, people, they take that foot off your throat a little bit to let you do. You'll actually see that, and I think this directly correlates. Cops who are happier, cops who have a little more freedom to just self-express, do a better job, right? Because you're coming in, you're in a better mood. You are confident in what you look like. If you're in a better mood and you're confident in what you look like, you're going to be more confident doing your job, which in turn is going to make your chief look better because your department is not getting complaints to come out and say getting shit wrong. Your cops are out doing what they're supposed to do, and I think it's just, again, it's free.
I'm not even gonna say cops. I'm gonna say humanity. When have you seen a human being restricted of doing things and that human being happy about being restricted of doing things? And it goes along with what you're saying. It's giving people the freedom to express themselves. Again, do I believe that? Do I think that there has to be a standard? No, I absolutely think that there has to be a standard. There's no questions.
But you can have limits.
But of course, that's what I'm saying. You have to have parameters. Like, hey, listen, it has to be a quarter of an inch, no more than a quarter of an inch. Now, if you're at a quarter of an inch, that means you're at the limit.
Right.
So keep it neatly trimmed. I'm okay with that. Like I said, even with the tattoos, I'm okay with the tattoos. I'm okay with the full sleeves. I got full sleeves. I'm okay with the hand tattoos. That's fine with me. I'm okay with the neck tattoos. Now, in uniform, do I think hand tattoos and neck tattoos? No. But if you don't wear a uniform and you don't have that kind of job, by all means, get those tattoos. Dude. Now, if you're a police officer, military, do I think maybe hand tattoos and neck tattoos and face tattoos look tacky? I think it looks tacky. Again, that's my opinion.
But I'd rather have that in a person that shows up and that knows what the fuck they're doing versus,
of course, 100%.
The person that doesn't.
We spoke about professionalism earlier.
They're like,
100%.
They walk in the door, you go, oh, fuck, this person's here. Well, this is going to be interesting because we all have that officer where we turn around and going,
obviously, people might wonder like, what the hell this has to do with mental health. I mean, me personally, like all I can think about when you guys are talking about this, back and forth is what went through your life, or what was going through your life, or was going through your mind when you decided to get a tattoo on your face, on your forehead and stuff. Yeah. I wonder, because I love tattoos.
Tyson, let's call Mike.
Yeah, I love tattoos, and I've seen some people with like neck tattoos that are dope. I've seen people with hand tattoos that are dope. But like I always thought in the back of my mind, I'm like, all right, like I gotta set limitations on myself too. Mm-hmm. Like where if I'm gonna start tatting out my hands and my face and shit, like am I gonna like that? Am I gonna like how that looks down the road? Maybe I don't like my arm tattoos down the road. Who knows? But what was like, going through somebody's mind when they decided to go, fuck it, I'll take the risks. I'll go ahead and get my face tatted, my neck tatted, my hands tatted, and I'll face the consequences. I don't know.
Along the same lines, actually, I'll ask another question. I'll go a little bit further, right? We talk about looking neat. How about hair? Like your actual hair.
Like if you had a mullet?
Like if you had, do haircuts make you more unprofessional? Like if you were a cop and you had braids, or if you were a cop and you had, let's say, dreads, does that make you more, does that make you unprofessional? Does that make you not professional? To me, right. I don't care how your hair looks as long as it looks neat. Again,
as long as it looks neat.
It has to look neat. But again, it has to be a standard. I think everything with a standard is fine. Would I let my hair grow? Fuck yeah, I will let my hair grow.
Fuck, dude, I miss my long hair.
I'll have a ponytail probably if I could let my hair grow. I would let my hair grow again. I've always had long hair my whole life up until I joined the military, obviously, and then the hair went.
Sure, one of our good friends has a mullet who is a detective.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Looks crazy.
Fucking fantastic. But he looks good. And he's a jacked guy too. He's in great shape. He's a handsome guy.
He is tatted up like a motherfucker.
Yes, he is. But I think that, just like you said, but I also think it's almost an individual thing, right? Like if I showed up with a mullet, you'd be like, hey man, you look like a bag of shit. You need to go shave there. Right? Like, it almost has to fit the person as well. And that's where I think, we touched on this, these standards almost need to be, which is super hard, but almost individualized.
Yeah,
I don't know how you do that as a department.
That'd be tough because then you got to think about like what's the extension of that? Like where does that arm reach? Right. What hair color are you going to dye?
The earrings. Who sets that precedent? Right. Like, who's the person that can go? Well, you look like shit.
But again, now you have blue hair. Does that make you unprofessional? Are you?
I think it looks like shit. But
I'm saying, are you gonna perform your job different?
Yeah.
now we're in a realm that if we can what if the shit out of this.
Right.
If you have red hair, would that make
And
you
you can take
unprofessional?
it to extremes like crazy.
Of course.
Because there's even
But that's what I'm
parameters
saying.
with like
I agree that there should
nail
be
colors.
standards.
Right? Like what about the females? They said you have. I think it has to be like nude color,
Like neutral colors.
Yeah, neutral
No
colors or
makeup,
something like
no
no like
lip
hot
gloss.
pink and no lip gloss.
Which is stupid as hell. Again, now, do I believe that you should have like fucking 5-inch nails?
Right.
I think that was crazy.
But I think
It's like, how do you
What are those shit?
How do you even wipe
The
your
bugles?
ass?
The bugle nails?
You know what I'm saying?
We all used to do that shit. You know when you were younger, you fucking stick bugles. I know you're fucking.
Your type is makes that click noise.
Yeah. Oh, that fucking guy's honey as shit.
But that's what I'm saying. Like,
But-
I understand that. I agree that there has to be standards, but we should also have the freedom to do certain things
Right.
within those standards.
If you're making that decision in this job line to go that extreme with an appearance where you're dyeing your hair whatever light blue with 7-inch nails with face tattoos, I think when you're looking at that,
Wow, we just made up a character right there.
But I think like that obviously isn't a professional look.
The problem
because
is that
it's so extreme all the way around.
It's been ingrained in our brains that certain things are unprofessional and they look unprofessional, but are they really unprofessional?
Because that person may be a great cop.
That's what I'm saying. So now I agree with Matthias. Now, if I have nudity on my tattoos, and if I have like "fuck you" or "suck my,"
you got the paw prints, you got
that's
the crown.
crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. If that's something that that I don't know. Again, does it make you unprofessional?
Yeah.
Like to me. So if you have those kind of tattoos where they are unprofessional, obviously we know tattoos that are unprofessional, then that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That now you have to cover those up. But that would be within the standards that will be set out. Like now, if you have nudity, if you have this, if you have those kind of words, like gang affiliation, I don't know how you get on the job of gang affiliation. Shit, more power to you if you slid through. Shit. I'm just
Something you can tell us?
shit. Me, not me.
But I think that even goes to
I'm as squeaky clean as it gets, bro.
taking the next one is the fitness. How many? Look, I don't think any of our departments. Once you're done with the academy, nobody has a fitness standard. And
Nobody. I don't know.
I think that should be something that's a standard. It doesn't have to be crazy.
Once a year?
I don't think it needs to necessarily be like the academy standard, but I think there should be at least like when you
Once a year
pass.
Do you do once a year?
I think you should. I think every police officer should.
Run push-ups and sit-ups,
Yeah.
just like the military, once a year.
Or even maybe not even like I'm not a mile. I don't think it should be the mile run. I don't think that's realistic for our job. I think it should be like an obstacle course.
Yeah.
In my opinion, how many are you really chasing a perp for a mile? No,
No, I mean,
I've a 6-minute mile.
I've always said that. I've always said that.
But even in wars, like, who the fuck is running a mile?
Right.
If you're running a mile, one, you're probably being shot at, so your fucking your adrenaline's
You're just
gonna be
gonna keep
pumping
going.
so crazy that you're just gonna keep going, or something went horribly wrong,
So-
and again, your freaking adrenaline is just gonna be pumping so hard. That you just,
In the foot pursuits I've been in, I don't think it's been more than almost 200 yards.
yeah.
And that's the longest.
Well, that's if
one.
you catch up.
So that's the long. Yeah, that means not catching up. But that's the longest one I've had where I'm like this, and even after this, I'm like, why the fuck did we just did this?
the PT standards are like is so tough too to gauge. I don't know where do you start. Like I know it doesn't need to be the mile and a half, the push-ups and the sit-ups. We do change as time progresses and we get older, injuries, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know what would work. So I agree with you. It would be nice to have that standard because if you do have the physical standard, then you will get the appearance majority of the time. I'd like to think my personal opinion would be majority of the time you would have somebody who's in okay shape to perform the duties of their job. But like for example, after 10 years, 9 going on 10 years, whatever of us doing this job, like I can feel my body getting beat up a little bit.
Yeah, my body hurts all the time.
And as a double amputee, like my fucking legs are always shot. So the running is
Get it? It's double amputees, laser shot.
blown up. So for me, I don't know if the run would be like that, but I know that I've heard other departments doing like maybe a row or maybe a bike or maybe something of agility that'll show, hey, your heart's not going to fucking explode.
Have your heart rate going up, have your heart rate increase, decrease.
Maybe some kind of CrossFit workout. I don't fucking know. Something that'll work for everybody. Because let me ask you a question. Like you said before, we have to set parameters, right? If the fucking new cop is doing a PT exam, You said it. He said it. Whoever said it.
I said it.
You said it. The newest guy. You said it. He said it. We all said it. Here, put your hands in. All right. If the newest cop on the job's got to do it, then the chief of the department's probably got to do that fucking job too. Or are we only holding expectations for patrol?
Well,
you know, like, what are we doing?
You bring that up.
Everyone.
And this is my favorite thing that I complain about. Is you just brought it up. How many chiefs and brass follow the policy that is set forth for their POs? Because I can tell you right now, a lot of chiefs and brass don't follow the beard policy. They don't follow the facial hair. They don't follow the same grooming, and they don't follow the same tattoo that they put in place. So because they're above.
Because in their mind, they're already put in their time. They earned whatever they
but
got.
That to me is a bunch of nonsense. How? Because if you, it's like with your kids. And I think policing is just like being a parent. If you go to your kids,
you don't say.
You can't do this, but I can. They're looking at going, well, what the fuck rule is that? Obviously, for just certain things, you can't. Like the same thing with a chief to their underlings.
Yeah. To their minions.
But I think generally speaking, if I'm going to put this rule forward, right? If I'm going to put the rule forward to my kids, you're not allowed to have junk food. Why am I allowed to have junk food?
Because you're the dad.
But I think that's complete nonsense. And I think the same thing with our job entirely is a lot of the brass doesn't follow the rules that they put forward. I mean, they may say, well, why is your windows tinted in your car? But then they'll get in their car and they have an unmarked they're taking home that's tinted. And I'm like, well, why do you get to drive, even though it's a police route? Why are you driving a tinted car? But you just busted my balls for having a tinted car. I think, do as I say and not as I do is a complete nonsense. And I think that's all the time. Well, I forget how to say it.
You said it right.
But I think that's
I don't know why he was.
No, because he had to think about it. He paused. I was doing the same thing. I was like, is that right?
It's like fool me once.
Right.
Shame on me.
Fool me twice. Can't get fooled again.
It's tough, man, because you know what? I remember in the Marine Corps when I had like my captain, for example, the guy who was there when I got blown up. This dude was a fucking
Wait,
animal.
you got blown up?
I think. I don't know what happened. When I was in Afghanistan, I got this guy, Captain Campbell was his name. I think now he's a lieutenant colonel or colonel. He's up there, like the soup. Yep, Campbell soup.
Nice.
Between him and my corpsman, Doc Casey, they both were fucking just animals. I mean, this captain was in probably his mid-30s, going on his 40s. And he was doing we didn't do a mile and a half. We did 3 miles in the Marine Corps. Our PFT test was, I'm just saying the standards were a little higher. A 3 mile run, the push-up, the pull-ups, and the sit-ups. For what reason?
That's my thing.
I don't know. All I'm saying, it's like because
the ruck I get.
The Army does 2 miles.
But
the Army does 2 miles. The Air Force, we do 1.5 miles.
What the fuck do you guys do?
1.5 miles.
In what? In the bicycle?
No, running. Just like you guys. Yeah.
It doesn't make any. Even when I was Division 1
we finish and we let you guys keep running. We're like, why do you say you're still running?
Even Division athlete, they're like, all right, you have to do the Cooper. I'm like, yes, I play soccer. I go, I'm not running a mile straight. It's short sprints. It's directional change.
It's not for me. It wasn't about that. For me, it was the just the reason that this guy was the way he was. I wanted to be like him. I aspired to be like him because he was, in great shape. He was a father. He had kids. We were deployed. We were just a bunch of punk guys, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, no wives, no kids, no responsibilities. Dude. This fucking guy's got to go home and play a dad, husband. Has to do all this shit and come home. Go to work and then be the father to us too. So the guy was like running the 3 miles in whatever it was, 15 minutes or whatever. It was ridiculous. I was like, what the fuck?
Well, that was like Sergeant Superman in the academy. Fucking dude was a
beast.
Yeah, he was.
So for me, just remember that if we're going to be walking into that territory of like, let's set standards, who is required to meet these standards? Is it just
everyone?
Is it just cops?
Everyone.
Like, is it everyone? Is it lieutenants?
Being realistic, it's going to be uniformed personnel or active duty personnel.
No, everyone.
I think it should be everyone. I think if the chief is going to set it, the chief should be able to do it as well.
That's my question. Is like how? Let's be realistic.
But you're also going to have an age standard. That's
what I'm saying. We'll just push it. We'll just bullshit.
We have it.
We have the Cooper standards, and we have the military age.
It's just
in the military they have age standards.
Right.
Like you can run a mile and a half.
But I can tell you right now the running standard for a 21-year-old or whatever coming in, I think the mile and a half to graduate is approximately, I think, like 12:38 or 11:58.
Like
11:58.
For the academy? It was 11 something.
11:55 or 11:50. Something along those lines.
I fell under that one, and I had.
I made it.
I made it 11, but for the graduating one. But I'm just saying, let's call it 11:58, right? Just for shits and giggles. So that's a 21-year-old. It's not that much more for the older groups is what I'm trying to get at. Like for the next group up, it's like 12:38. The next group up is like 12:58. So it's not like it's that much different. So is a chief, let's call it a 60-year-old, 65-year-old chief running a fucking mile and a half in 12:58 or 13? Probably not.
Maybe you shouldn't have a 60-year-old chief, though. And I think this is part of the thing, too.
Yeah.
I think at some point,
people need to start retiring.
He's looking at it going,
get out of here.
Phase out.
You
And
fucking
I think
old
that's,
fuck.
again, you bring it all back full circle.
Yo, what is the max we can do? 32 years on my job?
Yeah.
So 32, if you're coming in at, let's call it 25, I'm not very good at math, but 25 and 32 is what? Like 50, 20, no, let's not say 25. No, I'm just saying I wanted to go older to prove that point. If you're 57 years old.
At 25, if you did 32.
Let's call it 25 to 30, right? Let's call it a 30-year-old. It'd be easier. 30 and 32 is what? 62 years old.
Yeah.
You got a 62-year-old running a fucking mile and a half?
That'll be me.
But
I hope so.
But hold on.
No,
I'm saying the mile and a half in
so if we're
12 minutes.
But if we're giving them...
If you can't do that, then you should retire.
Now, if you're giving them that out, they shouldn't be running around chasing perks.
Can you do that again?
If you can't do that, you should retire.
But I agree, because so you can't...
You want to make the money. You want to have the job. You have to have the standards. You have to do what everybody else does.
Because
and this is why we don't have the standard, because I don't know that many people could do it.
But again, not right now, because there is no standard, so nobody's going to be able to do it. But if they give people 5 years to catch up to the standards where they would be with their age, you don't think within 5 years, and then now 5 years is up, and you can't meet that standard, now you retire.
I want to pull up Ladino. Hold on. How pissed do you think people are going to be when they're listening to this part of the podcast?
I love
Who gives a fuck? And that's why...
Yo, what the fuck? I don't want to be running at fucking 55 years old. Hey,
retire.
Me neither. Just so you know, and I will retire.
But that's the thing. I'm going to retire. I'm not going to sit here and stay at this fucking job just to do it.
Just put your hands on your hips when you were saying that. I'm not doing it, and I'm going to retire. I'm leaving. Give me my fucking money right now. Oh shit! I get that. I understand because the reality is this. Do you guys know? I know a few.
Do you know that you know?
Do you know?
I know,
man.
I know that I know.
I know that you know that I know that what I know.
He's the only one that knows that he knows.
I know that I know at least a handful of 50-plus-year-old people on this job who can do the running, right? Personally. But I also know a few 50-plus-year-olds, what I was getting at is on patrol, that cannot fucking do that thing. So what I'm trying to get at is the expectation or the parameters that we're setting for this PT test should be looked at in a different perspective, a different lenses to keep you safe, right? Because if you are out of shape, let's call it cop shape, right? If you're out of cop shape, which means being able to put your hands on somebody and being safe until backup arrives, or being able to move away from fire or jump from.
If you're out of breath getting out of your patrol car, you have a problem.
That's a problem. That, you're coming to help me. My issue is you're coming to help me.
Yeah.
And if I have the bag of shit that shows up that can't do a push-up and can't run 5 feet because they're too fucking fat, I'm like, cool, I'm going to die because you are useless.
All right,
that becomes my problem.
And I'm gonna wrap this up with a bow, right? Tattoos, beard, hair, physical training, right? As long as it has a standard,
yes.
I think it's something that's feasible, something that can be done. You just have to have the right people in the right places to make it happen. Let's fucking go.